Good morning, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to our virtual town hall. Today is May 18th. I'm Staff Sergeant Sean Martin from the Eielson Public Affairs Office, and I'm here with Colonel Sean Enger, Commander of the 354th Fighter Wing, Major Dr. Trevor Peterson from our 354th Medical Group, and Chief Master Sergeant John Loken, Command Chief of the 354th Fighter Wing, here to share the latest updates regarding COVID-19. Just a reminder, we'll be taking questions in the comments section throughout the show, so please keep them coming. Let's start with some medical updates. Dr. Peterson, where are we right now as a community when it comes to COVID-19?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. So, the state of Alaska currently continues to see very low levels of COVID. Those cases we do see tend to be traveled in from out of state. So there is not a lot of in-state transmission. For that reason, the governor extended the 14-day isolation requirement when traveling into the state until June 2nd. So that was published over the weekend. Here locally, we're no different than the rest of the state. We see very few cases. From a testing standpoint, we have this capability to do same-day testing. So the Med Group is still very actively looking for patients with symptoms consistent with COVID-19. If you do have fever, chills, or any symptoms of an upper respiratory infection, we invite you to come to our COVID clinic, which is set up at the Med Group. You don't need an appointment. You just come to the main entrance and you'll be directed to it. It's open until 11 a.m. every morning in order for us to get those tests turned around within the same day.
Thank you, sir. Colonel Enger, what do we need to know regarding this week's coronavirus?
Well, I think a lot of our listeners and patrons and active duty members and spouses have noticed that we made a big change to the command directive on last Friday. And some of the big ticket items on that is particularly the gym, I think, which was relatively popular amongst everybody. That does open up our gym facility to active duty members, their dependents, and our government civilians who work on the installation. So I know that was probably long in coming for many people, but we think that it happened at the appropriate time in our COVID recovery timeline. So looking for feedback on that. I was a little bit concerned about capacity, especially as we get through the week and some of the surge times. Is what we didn't change in the installation or on the in the facility is the restrictions to the number of pieces of equipment that are available for our airmen and their families to use. So what I anticipate is there at times, in the high peak times, there being lines at some of the equipment, maybe even lines to get onto the track. So what I ask is that everyone that uses a gym adhere to the distancing procedures that we have in effect to keep everybody safe in the gym, and we should be able to keep, hopefully, the gym open in the status that it is. As we continue to go along, and if the COVID curve continues in its present state, we can hopefully start to change our operating procedures in the gym a little bit to accommodate a little bit more growth in the gym. Other things that we opened up, and this one's a little bit odd, is the 354th Fighter Wing playgrounds are open for use, right? So that's a little bit nuanced in that many of the playgrounds on the installation are owned and operated by our privatized housing company, Corvius. I don't have a lot of authority, in fact, any authority really, to open those up, but we are working with Corvius to try to get their playgrounds opened up, and that is a corporate policy that they are trying to work. And it's very difficult because we are on one spectrum of the COVID recovery process, whereas Corvius has many communities, and their corporate policies apply throughout those communities in other states. So trying to get them to break free Alaska and to be different has been a bit of a challenge for them, but we're going to continue to advocate for them to change that policy. But for the playgrounds that are owned by the 354th Fighter Wing, we have opened those up, and the one thing that I would ask all of our patrons that use those is to exercise good hygiene and some distancing procedures as you supervise your kids in those playgrounds. Ideally, what we're going to try to work towards is having some kind of a station there so that there is some sanitizer available for folks. It's one of those, as you see in the gym, where you put your hand under, you get a squirt of sanitizer, and be able to put it on your kids before they go in and use the equipment, and then after they leave. And that'll just help keep us safe. If there ever is a instance of COVID that enters onto the base, that we'll be able to protect ourselves. Some other things you'll expect to see is that the bowling center will be open, not the bowling portion, but the Strike Zone Cafe for breakfast and lunch only, and it'll be takeout. As we mentioned, the gym. Another policy that we changed was we went from the 20-person limit to a 50-person limit in gathering. Social distancing and hygiene still applies, but what this will allow is for our chapel services to conduct relatively normal chapel services up to the limit of 50, so they can start to bring patrons back into the chapel for Sunday services. So should see that coming up here as well. And that about wraps up the big changes. You'll also see slight change to our manning. The CDC will go back to effectively normal operations as we transition from mission essential to kind of what we call minimum manning. In a hierarchy after minimum manning will become reduced manning. And what we're really trying to get after here is a personnel required for expanded mission and services. This is a glide path to get back to what you would call normal. We're going to allow our squadron commanders to continue to determine who should come in and who should be allowed to either telework or is required to stay at home. We encourage our commanders to still do COVID practical procedures to either split shifts to minimize the exposure for our airmen. But we feel pretty comfortable right now that we can get back after an expanded mission set than we had been up to this point.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Peterson and Colonel Enger, for those important updates. And just a reminder, those command directives are publicly available on our ILSN webpage at www.ilson.af.mil/coronavirus. You are also encouraged to consult your chain of command if you have any questions about any of the guidance released. And with that being said, we're going to be taking a short break. Again, you're listening to the 354th Fighter Wing live virtual town hall. When we come back, we'll have a Q&A session from our listeners.
Save humanity by really not getting anywhere near it.
Attention all 354th Fighter Wing active duty airmen. The base commander has restricted all non-essential movement and directed mission essential reporting with an emphasis on teleworking. Eielson Air Force Base is currently in Health Protection Condition Charlie. View an up-to-date list of facility closures at eielsonforcesupport.com. Upon arrival to Hersey Gate, present your ID with the barcode exposed and ready for scanning. Do not depart until instructed to do so. For more information and to receive the latest updates about novel coronavirus 2019, visit ilson.af.mil/coronavirus.
We're back again. If you're just joining us, this is our live virtual town hall. I'm Staff Sergeant Sean Martin from the Eielson Public Affairs team, and I'm here with Colonel Enger, our Fighter Wing Vice Commander, Dr. Peterson, and Chief Loken. Colonel Enger is now going to talk about some hot ticket items that were mentioned in last week's town hall.
Yeah, hello again, everybody. I wanted to talk about two topics that came up last week. One was ATVs and ATV use on the installation. As I mentioned last week, I'm a huge proponent of the opportunity that we have at Eielson to be able to experience the trail systems that are located just off the installation, and our ability to take our ATVs from our residence to the gas station, get gas, and then go out to the to the trail systems, which is a fantastic opportunity. We talked about some of the folks that have been out there that aren't necessarily abiding by the rules, which to me indicated that they hadn't received the training. And when I talked about the training, I said we'd reinvigorate that. Well, it turns out that COVID has crushed those plans as well, because I need to bring somebody in TDY to train our trainers. So we're looking for alternate means by which to get the training out, at least temporarily, to those who want to use ATVs. Particularly what it's going to tell you is where you can and cannot ride, the manner by which you can get there. For instance, you should not be operating on our berm system for not corrosion, for erosion control, as well as the PPE that you need to wear while you're riding your machine, which is effectively a helmet, gloves, eye protection, and closed-toed shoes, or I would just say boots, is what's required. Even if you're in a full roll cage type machine, you still need to be wearing helmets. I saw a couple of folks out there yesterday, I think it was, that were not wearing any helmets, and they were in a full, probably a Polaris Razor type with a full roll cage, and I think they probably felt like they were more like in a car. But if it doesn't have a license plate and it's not street legal, you're going to need to be wearing a helmet while you're riding that on the installation to the gas station or out to the trails. The last thing I want to talk about is the trash pickup. As I talked about last week, the state typically does a full week where they encourage the population to go out and pick up our road system, because during the winter, there's just a lot of trash that gets collected and not picked up. And after 6 or 7 months of that, it gets pretty bad. And so after breakup, they take a week and clean up the Richardson Highway and all the other road systems. I noticed that there was still a fair amount of trash in the local area around Eielson. I brought that up last week, and I don't know if it was because of that or if it was everybody's plan to get out there and do it, but there's been quite a response to that in the base itself, and then the Richardson just outside the base is looking fantastic, and I really appreciate all of those who took the time to go out there with their families or with their organization to go and clean up the local area. Alaska's starting to look like the beautiful Alaska that I've come to know and love. So those are the two things I wanted to really bring up.
Awesome, thank you, sir. A question that came up is the Trusted Traveler program. Is that going to be something you see coming back as far as allowing visitors back on base?
Trusted Traveler will come back eventually. I don't have a specific timeline associated with that, but it will likely be aligned with the removal of our quarantine process, because a lot of that has to do with just safety and trying to restrict and who comes on and off our installation and knowing who that is. So I would say we're not within a couple weeks, as the doc said, to June. Is it to June? Yep, June 2nd will be the date that the state changes or relaxes their 14-day quarantine rule or mandate. And I would expect that on the installation, we will probably carry that for at least 1 or 2 weeks longer to see how that plays out. It's interesting. There are areas that have already changed their procedures, are well ahead of us, like the country of Korea, South Korea. And we were briefed by General Brown that one of the interesting recurrences that they experienced is after they changed their procedures, is that they started to see a distinct rise in cases, and they were able to narrow those cases down to bars and nightclubs. And so we're going to be very interested to see where our hot spots are. We don't have a big bar or nightclub scene, so if our numbers start to spike, we're going to take a good look at where that occurs and how we get after that. So we'll take a slow and methodical approach to it, but you can expect that Trusted Traveler will come back at some point this summer, assuming that our glide path remains similar to what we've experienced so far.
Awesome, thank you, sir. With the local community opening up and Eielson beginning to kind of open up as well, can you just reemphasize some things to kind of keep in mind for the local population to, although things are opening up, to also remember to be safe and social distance and all of the important things that'll help us mitigate and eventually recover completely from COVID?
Yeah, Sean, I think you said it right there yourself. So, no, I'll reiterate what I said last week, was that my experience downtown is that a lot of the local area has effectively COVID fatigue. Alaskans are ready to get back out and get back to normal, go to the places they want to go and do the things that they want to do. And honestly, I would encourage that. However, I would say that you need to take smart measures. And as a general rule, when I interact with the local community, if I don't know the individual and where they have been, particularly if it's just anybody from downtown, I'm going to wear my mask. When I'm around them, I'm going to treat everybody as if they have COVID, and if they do, and I protect myself, there's really no reason why I should contract it, right? So that includes frequent hand washing, using sanitizer, wearing my mask, and then trying to social distance wherever it makes sense. So I would encourage folks to get out and enjoy the state and do so responsibly.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Well, with that being said, we're going to go on ahead and take another break here. Again, you're listening to the 354th Fighter Wing live virtual town hall. When we come back, we'll be answering more of your questions, and we will also have an introduction with our new command chief. And we're back. Thanks to all of you who are listening to our virtual town hall. We have Chief Master Sergeant John Logan, 354th Fighter Wing Command Chief, here to talk a little bit about himself and introduce himself to Team Eielson. Chief?
How's everybody doing out there? Just give you guys a kind of vector on where I'm coming from. Just 14 days out of ROM. Yesterday was my first day of freedom again. It was pretty great. So I know a little bit of the plight for the people sitting in ROM right now. I think I was probably lucky and had a pretty good TLF room. I know there are airmen out there sitting in their dorms that probably don't have as nice a room, so hopefully the supervisors are out there taking care of them and getting them what they need while they're doing this ROM stuff. But if you have any questions for me regarding ROM and anything like that, please shoot them over to me. If you have any concerns like that, please get them to us so we can tackle them for you. But a little bit about me. So like I said, 2 weeks on base now, but this is really day one of kind of getting out and seeing the base. I look forward to working with you guys and integrating into the Team Iceman capabilities and doing all that. A little bit of background on me. Security Forces background is what I come from. I was a first sergeant for a little while. I've been in the Air Force now coming up on 26 years. Prior to here, I was at Hickam, and prior to that, I did a year in Kuwait, and prior to that, I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, at Kirtland Air Force Base. I won't go through all the resume, but that gives you a little background, on where I'm coming from over the last few years. Family dynamics, married, active duty spouse as well on base. We call her our 87-year-old teenager. She's my mother-in-law, who is my wife's dependent. And she acts much like a teenager, sits on her phone all the time, watches TV all the time, and is just enjoying her golden years. And now she's really excited to be up here in Alaska and do that as well up here. And we have a dog, our fur baby, who just got up here yesterday, as a matter of fact. He was delayed a little bit, but that's our dynamic. That's what we're doing at the house. I look forward to having people over to the house and doing some continuing those fire pit Fridays, I think is what Chief Hurt had. So we'll continue that tradition as much as we can. So I look forward to you guys coming out and joining us while we do that. A little bit of where I'm coming from as far as the command chief thing. Some visions, I guess, or goals that I would have is to, first of all, just integrate into the base and learn as much as I can about the mission here and what you all do, the great things that you all do here, as fast as I can, so we can start operating on all cylinders and I get through this fire hose drinking as fast as I can. And hopefully meeting everybody and hopefully at some point shaking hands once we get past this COVID stuff. So I look forward to that. As far as goals and visions, again, it's pretty much just to help out and be that servant chief that I can and knock down doors for airmen, big A airmen, lead them from the front and I guess help out and pass along things and build a bench so that when I'm done with this stuff and hang it up that we know we're safe and secure with the folks that are behind us, the airmen that are behind us. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, and I'll get more into it as we go along and I'll find some focus areas as we get along into this. But just know that I'm here for any questions, and if you got anything for me at any time, please let me know. And I guess that's me in a nutshell, and I look forward to meeting y'all.
Awesome. Thank you, Chief, and welcome to the team.
Yeah, so it's great having the command chief here. Nobody likes any gap really in the command team. So with that, as everyone is probably well aware, Colonel Bishop left this weekend. He took Saturday with his family, went down to Denali, and he hit the road yesterday as he works his way out toward the Pentagon. So in his as he leaves the installation, I stepped up from the vice position and now will assume the duties of the wing commander until his boarded replacement, Colonel Birkeland, shows up, and we anticipate that to be about the 17th of August. So that's about 3 months. What I will tell you from my perspective is Colonel Bishop and I worked exceptionally well together. We had shared vision on kind of where the wing is going, so I don't expect to do a hard 90 left or right. My goal is to start a dialogue with Colonel Birkeland, figure out his style and his priorities, and start to try to implement them slowly so that when he takes over in August, he'll have a wing that is well prepared to move into the future, right? So we got a lot going on with the F-35. We have a lot going on with our red flag mission. We're trying to figure out how we're going to execute a red flag in early August and then one again in October. There's just a lot to look forward to, and hopefully COVID continues on its path and just moves by the wayside and we can get back to business. So I'll be dead focused on working on those things. I will be continue to engage in these forums. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And look forward to a great summer. And while we're not doing red flags, the first two, I would encourage everyone to take the opportunity to get out and see Alaska, burn a little bit of that leave while we have a little bit of a downtime. Because once we start picking it back up, it'll be right back to the grind of getting after these red flag exercises and getting the F-35 off and running. So this is a short 3-month stint for me, but man, I'm looking forward to it and look forward to serving the entire Iceman team.
Awesome, thank you, sir. Alrighty, folks. Well, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you again to Colonel Enger, Dr. Peterson, and Chief Loken for being here, and of course, thank you to everyone for tuning in. We hope you got some good information from today's show. If you have any more questions for us, please send them via the comments section below. We'll continue to answer them even after this broadcast. Again, you've been listening to the 354th Fighter Wing live virtual town hall. Until next time, take care and stay healthy.